step off. You've got as steady as you can.
No, that's where I'm going to be.
Okay. That's live.
That's the live one. But the one on the top right is what we're...
That would be good for me if you could. That'd be great because then I can. Just so I know not to move the camera if I see my shots there. Yeah, we're not going to do anything internal, I guess.
Maybe we can start any time.
So I've got plenty of lines, so that'd be quite nice to get some atmosphere. Let's go. All right.
So now the live one is the top left. So I don't see your shot on that.
So just so you got a heads up, he will preview a shot on the top right, and that's what he's going to switch to next.
Okay, gotcha.
So normally he would say going to camera B cam, so you can preview it. So you're not sure any of the audience whether you're facing
I think that's some really like rich
There's certainly some very glossy hair.
so done.
Okay, we're up.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and fellow travelers, welcome to tonight. We are very, very excited, Jan Apil and I and our teams at the Serpentine Galleries to welcome you here. Incredibly excited about this wonderful friendship, dialogue and decades of collaboration with the amazing Sam Keller and the Beyeler Foundation. And it's a dream come true to welcome Marina Abramović back to the Serpentine, because ever since we did the exhibition here, 512 hours, where we gave actually Marina the keys to the Serpentine where we met every day. We are missing Marina ever since the show ended every day, and we are so excited. So
Actually, I still have the keys. I can use them.
I know we gave you the keys. So please give another very, very warm welcome to the great Marina Abramović. Now we've recorded many conversations before with Marina in lots of different contexts. The first one happened on a bullet train in Japan.
But let's start from the beginning. The beginning of the beginning, this man was 21 years old and he was in Hamburg and he was assistant to Kasper Koenig, and he was so eccentric and interesting, and still he is. Then we go to the bullet train.
Then there was the bullet train, then there were many interviews on planes, there was one actually in Manchester at the railway station, context of the Manchester International Festival, and so excited to do this 14th conversation tonight at the Serpentine Sackler Gallery.
Actually, talking about we never actually just have normal conversation. We always have interviews.
It's all recorded. And tonight we were speaking with Marina and Sam a couple of times, and we are thinking it would be nice tonight to do a very special conversation which focuses really on the new chapter of Marina's work of the last couple of years, and to talk about something Marina felt is very urgent, to talk about community. And I think, Marina, you thought it would be a good idea to start with The Artist is Present, because this exhibition at MoMA in New York City, which happened just before the Serpentine show, was actually really a gateway. Ian Chang often says, there are artworks or exhibitions which can be a gateway, and it was a gateway to a completely new chapter. So maybe we can begin with that, and you telling us a little bit about The Artist is Present, and how it all started there with your idea of the work changing.
All right, so just to start, I'm working since 70s in performance. And in the 70s, performance was nobody territory. There was just the alternative form of art. And in those days, nobody even believed it was any form of art. So when I would have audience of 10 people or 20, or it would come 50, that would be like a large crowd, and I would be so excited. And everything went till really changed my life, the MoMA show. MoMA show is the moment when really the performance become mainstream art. The moment you get into the museum, and like in this some kind of scale, everything's changed. So when I got the invitation of Klaus Wiesebach to make a show in MoMA, he said to me, I would like to call this exhibition Artist is Present. It's very simple. We will show the work where you are present, which basically is every single work. And then, I could do very simple thing. I could have a great show. I could have a dinner with the MoMA friends, and I could go home and have a good time, and just sometimes go and see my show in museum of 3 months. But I actually saw enormous opportunity to actually take this Artist is Present as a possibility to really be present in the museum for the entire 3 months. Nobody asked me to do that. But I wanted to show to the larger public that performance have transformative force, that something can happen differently. And I took very simple thing. In the first day, there was 3 months show. The first months I sit at the table, and there was always chair there, and the people can come and sit any amount of time they want. Curator said to me, but nobody will sit in the museum, in the front of you. Most of the chair will be empty, for simple reason, because, in New York, nobody have time. And this was happening in Atrium. And Atrium is like a tornado. Its energy is going everywhere. People are going to see the shows, they're going to the bookshop, to the restaurant. So nobody have concentration. So my task was how in this tornado I can create a center. And eye of tornado is pure stillness. So this is what you see now. This is the last actually months where I removed the table, because I found the table was not necessary. It was so conventional. I just need to have a direct contact with the audience. And then starts things really happening on the many, many large scales. 850,000 people came, for the living artists ever. And people are sitting in front of me any amount of time, from 7 hours to 5, 6, 3, sleeping outside of the museum, crying. And all kinds of things really happened on the way that was unexplainable to the staff. Even the 86 guards of the museum came and sit in front of me. So when this happened, you know, I came to the end of this show. I stood up after three months, and you have to know that I sit exactly opening hours of the museum, 8 hours a day, except the Fridays is 10 hours when the museum is open longer. And I never move, never drink water, never went to the bathroom, never do anything, just observe humans. When I stood up, in this moment, it was 17,000 people in the museum. At that moment when I stood up, everything changed for me. I understood that I reach a level of audience who really present community. So now we came to community.
And it's also fascinating because, of course, this piece, The Artist is Present, was an extension, as you once told me, of an older piece called Night Sea Crossing. I was wondering if you can tell us a little bit how it evolved, because it's fascinating that you decided to actually remove everything. Because in Night Sea Crossings, as you said, there was a table, there were things, you reduced it.
But Night Sea Crossing was the collaboration with Ulai, which came out of it by desert experience, living in Australian desert for 1 year with Aborigines. And there we had a table and just opposite, sitting each other, looking at each other, and creating something we call tableau vivant. And we sit at different times of that the museum's giving us 5 days or 6 or 15 over the 5 years period. But then when we split on the Great Wall of China, actually his chair was empty. So audience took his place. So instead of him, it was everybody.
And I remember when we started to work on the Serpentine show, which followed the 512 exhibition, which followed the MoMA show. You started with this idea of nothing. You said that you don't have to.
First, we have to talk about honor. You remember the statement that you love and I love so much. And you see, it was written so long ago. But the idea that a new type of institution is the power station. To me, this talks so much to me. Because, the concept of the museum is 19th century concept still. You come to look at the things. But if you come and be part of something and not just being, voyeur or, the visitor. So that all change of the role of the spectator was very important. And he had this vision already so long ago. So the new institutions as a power station.
He ran the Hanover Museum, Alexander Dahmer, in the early 20th century, and he of course worked with Lisitsky, and the idea was really that the museum, in dialogue with artists, would become these power plants. So in a way, it's transforming the institutions, what your shows did. It changed MoMA forever, and it changed the Serpentine forever.
Yeah, but this was a long story about this. Julia Payton-Jones, you called me, I was somewhere in Brazil, in the middle of jungle, and he said, we would love to, you come to Serpentine and show the unseen works. So we was very excited, and we start thinking about. And the more I think about the show, the more I was thinking, what about if I show absolutely nothing? And then I called them and I said, you know what? What if the Serpentine is completely empty? What if I take the audience by the hand and bring them to an empty wall? What about that? It's very risky for curators and director of the museum to take the concepts which you absolutely don't know where this is going to go, and to have this kind of risk. But you took risk, which make me friend forever.
We said, no, I remember you said this idea, and we just said, let's do it. But what is exciting, and before we maybe see images of the Serpentine show, I wanted to ask you about something which is really in all of these projects, which is stamina. Because of course, the MoMA show is an extraordinary stamina. And you told me once that both of your parents were war heroes in Serbia, and that it has a lot to do with your childhood, this idea of stamina. Can you explain to us where this extraordinary stamina is coming from?
Coming from the ex-communism, which my mother and father both, fight, in the Second World War on the side of Tito, and they're both national heroes. And they slept with their pistols next to the bed. And I've been completely trained as in the military order. My mother would literally, when I was 12 years old, wake me in the middle of the night if my bed is not in perfect order when I sleep. So sometimes now we go to the hotels and, people think I'm not even there because we open the bed, it stands very straight, very disciplined. But, part of this, it was all about, it was all about the cause that you have to sacrifice your private life for everything. The private life is not important at all. That is important what you really wanted to bring to community and how you can, and what you can, existence and your ideas can change the world. So that was these big ideas constantly, on one side the mother and father, and then the completely spirituality from my grandmother, who hate communism, hate all bullshit, and just spend the time, in meditation and praying. So I am such a strange mixture of everything, and I think that the willpower came definitely from parents.
Before we sat, in our office preparing the talk, all these memories came back, of course, because we spent so much time together as you were here. And I wanted to ask you to tell us now that we have the images of the show, the 512 hours,
right.
to tell us a little bit about the rules of the game, because you were in the gallery for the duration of the entire exhibition.
Wait, start with lockers. That's absolutely must. Lockers. You remember how important? This was the first time we introduced lockers. Lockers was like, we know that the Serpentine is not such a big space, so we could have, because of security reason, 120 lockers, that we can have 120 people at a time in the gallery. So we placed these 120 lockers. So these 120 lockers was there. We have facilitators who've been instructed to ask public to leave the telephone, the computer, and the watch in the locker. After that, there was given them headphones, and headphones was given to completely block the sound. And I remember very well the little Japanese kids, they put headphones and say, but they don't work, because they always hear some kind of horrible noise coming as a music, but this was completely block the sound. So they will enter, and that will be, they will enter in the space, and many things will happen. They will be brought to the walls, they will be blindfolded, they will ask them to stand on the platforms, they will, what else they will do? They will count the rice, they will do lots of different exercises, and every day they do things that change. So actually we work individually with every person of the public. And the one thing important was this platform, which was a very simple thing. The platform was like a piece of wood, just maybe 10 centimeters away from the floor. But that platform, this is the blindfolded, what happens if the people have one sense less, and how they can create trust to be in the space they don't know, and to have a relation with other people, and to be touched. And slow motion walk, just showing something. But the platform was really important to me. So that platform, it was how you put actually different people who comes to the Serpentine on the platform and create kind of an energetic field. We will have once on this platform like Bangladeshi housewife, and after a while she's coming so often to the Serpentine, I will ask her, but why are you coming? And she said, since I stand on this platform completely still, with all my eyes closed, with no sound in my ears, I feel much better that I can deal with my children in a different way. There was a science fiction writer, and he would come for 10 days, every single day, slow motion walk in Serpentine. And I said, why are you coming? And he said, this is for me like mind spa. I come here, I do slow motion walk, nobody bothers me, and then I go home and write so good. There was a farmer from the north of England, and I said, why are you coming? He said, actually, I found this exercise so good because then I can deal with my plants much better. And I asked this little kid, why are you there every time after school? And he said to me, I'm so bad in school, but the moment I come here, I put the headphones and stand on this platform for a while, for a long time. Then I come home and everything is okay. And then this is for me the amazing image. 3 generations standing there just in this oblivion time with all the other kind of people creating this energetic field. So the public make the work itself in this work, in this Serpentine.
And it's interesting because it created a real community of people, the more than 100,000 people who came, who experienced it. As many of them are still in touch. There is a lot of dialogue ongoing. And one of the things which very often is mentioned when I speak to people who saw the piece, they all remember that you put them to bed, that you put them to sleep. But that was very strong. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, the bed was also very strong. But the bed became, then I have the material about the bed related to the Mai. So can we just go a little bit to Mai, and then you see the all other workshop? Because now we create, from the Serpentine, we create something I call method. And the method, Abramović method, was built on the experience of me being all around the world, learning so many things from Eastern cultures, being in a kind of retreat centers in the middle of jungle, doing Vipassana meditation. So I took the best of the best and I give this to the public. So bad. Let me see. Shall we come to the mind first and then we go back to bed?
Yeah, I think it's great to talk about the mind because you mentioned Alexander Dornan. You know, he talks about this idea of the institution being a Kraftwerk, being a field of energy, a power plant in a way. And of course, what you do with your exhibitions, MoMA, Serpentine, and we're going to talk about several others, is that you transform existing institutions. And I remember that you always said that that's one possibility, but the other possibility is, of course, that as an artist, you set up your own institution, and that leads us to mine.
Yes, so after the experience of Serpentine and experience of MoMA, I understood that I actually have to create certain legacy, and that would be mine. So mine is Marina Abramović Institute. And then what I done, I bought a building in Hudson, upstate. I was very enthusiastic. I bought this on my birthday. And then I asked Rem Koolhaas, I said, okay, can you do something about it? And we made a big campaign with Kickstarter, and which really made me mad because I could not sleep for 1 month to really do it. But we made it the best amount of money for the visual art ever. In 1 month we got 652,000 the dollar to actually give to Rem Koolhaas to make the plans. So he made the plans, and the plans was absolutely beautiful and incredibly, they have this great potential. But then when he told me how much it would cost to make it, he said, oh, but this will cost 31 million. Then I just lost my breath. I mean, I, as a performance artist, could never raise 31 million, except if I was some amazing guy from Emirates or some Russian or whatever, who just give the check because he believed in me, which really in real life don't happen. So this institute stays as just a dream and as a kind of, the conceptual idea. And then I understand, okay, but I wanted to make Abramović Institute based on immaterial art. Why I should not just make immaterial institute? I don't need a building. So building is still there, and I think the pigeons living there. But one day, as a real estate, maybe we sell it. But actually, institute become everywhere. So our logo was, don't come to us, we come to you. And then become global. And now everywhere institutions invite us, we actually do the work, which actually completely takes us from infrastructure. We don't need to pay the building, we don't need to pay taxes, we don't need to pay the running the all stuff, because the institutes who invite us do this for us.
It's interesting because I remember in the early 90s, I once spoke with our dear friend Jonas Mekas about moving image, and he said, he had to set up his own institution because he just felt that experimental film didn't have enough visibility in society. And of course, it's similarly with your institution. You wanted to create the visibility for live art, but you wanted also to have a legacy in terms of your work and other artists' work, archive, memory.
Yeah. So actually institutes have lots of different elements. The one thing, the one based on institute is Abramović method, which actually, the idea of Abramović method is to train public to see long durational work of art. Because after the moment I understand the long durational work of art is actually the most transformative than anything. Because it's one thing if you do performance one hour or 3 hours or even 10 days. But if you do something 1 month or 3 months, you can't pretend, you can't act, everything falls apart. You really become true reality. And you really come to the state of presence. So that really creates enormous community. So the kind of response. So in what we do in our institutions, so we made some very big different events in Australia, in Brazil, in Greece, and which very, very large numbers of audience. We are talking 54,000 people, 120, 250 in, 12 days in Sydney. We had 32,000 people, which is very large numbers of audience participating. And then they will go through our method with preparation, and then they will see the young artist performances, which are all long duration. We create really institution into energy power station, because when you see something, everything is live. So you come, if the show is 2 months, people are performing 8 hours a day. That's it. So that's something never happens. So that now the method which we create based on Serpentine, it's to deal with large-scale audience. And so now we create a community who is not just art community. For me, it's important that we include everybody. So we recreate the virtual gaze, where the strangers can look at each other's eyes. We create the platforms. This is all different places in the world again. We create another very important exercise is counting the rice. Which, counting the rice is so funny because it looks like so simple. You have the lentils and you have rice in the front of you. You have to make choice how much lentils and rice you're going to take. Then you divide them and then you count each grain separate. It's up to you what you're going to, how much time you want to dedicate. But and then you go through this whole process of, being amused, being incredibly angry, being completely frustrated, say, oh, what is the bullshit, what I'm doing this, and then giving it half undone. So the rice is symbol for life. If you can't do the rice, you can't do life either. So this Swiss family here from Basel sit here 4 hours, mother, the daughter, and 4 hours, and they really finish the job. So we have very large table which we create in Tasmania, which large community will count the rice, hours. And then you see what happened. Time stops when you really decide to finish. Your breathing becomes stabilized and you concentrate on here and now. And then incredible satisfaction when you actually accomplish. So the rice you take as a synonym for your attitude about life. So this is your beds. This is Buenos Aires. So the idea is to put people in the bed very gently and to be together with not necessarily sleeping, but together and creating that kind of, the special energy of rest and calmness.
There are moments of rest, of calmness, but then there are also moments of drill.
And look at this. There is some very interesting feeling of almost kind of spiritual, because these people don't even know they're photographed, but a spiritual feeling about this whole thing, because somehow by being there together and with this restriction of seeing, everything changed. So this is a very large kind of event I create in Greece. So in Greece, I ask people from social media just to come for 7 minutes in the front of the museum, and 3,000 people came. And all what I ask them is to put their hands on their shoulder, close their eyes, and just be together as a human beings. So what do you think you should do with this now?
Yeah, actually we have a wonderful tradition at the Serpentine that whenever Marina comes to the Serpentine, and she participated in many marathons, it's not only a talk or a lecture, there's always something happening. So we thought it would be nice tonight, and when we thought about something very special for this UBS Beyeler evening, we were thinking that maybe some action could happen, but then Marina thought of something even more amazing, and she suddenly remembered the Benaki, and maybe you should tell us what we should now all do.
Yes. Maybe I'll show you just a short video. This was the bell that we start, and then I give a little speech. I just want to show you. It's a very simple, modest speech. Time of economic crisis.
Beloved people. I'm so happy we are all here now. I really wanted to do something together because this whole project here is called As One. And which I like to talk to you is about love. We always forget to talk about love. We talk about politics, we talk about art, we talk about so many different things. But the love is the most important thing that human beings should feel for another human being. And we forget about this. And we forgot that actually to open the heart, unconditionally. Not just the love to the wife, man, children, but to love for the unknown person that you never met. Unconditional love for the human being itself. And to me, this is my big desire, especially here in Greece, to be together only 7 minutes in silence. Just put your hand on the shoulder of another person, just to feel this kind of connection, even if you don't know who he is. And to stay 7 minutes in complete silence with the closed eyes. It's just to feel together, like a community. We are building in this Benaki Museum huge community. You know, we start here with some, audience, and audience is going up and up and up, and there are people coming and seeing the Greek performance artists and seeing the method, and experience is something that didn't experience before. They're opening their hearts. And I can see this every single day. Every single day something is more, and there's more warmth, and it's more kind of glitter in the eyes. And I see people, and I see how they actually have something personal to bring to this project. So community is important. Community can change the world. Community can do so many things if we are all together as one. So this is why I was calling you here. So we're going to have a gong, exactly, and we close the eyes, and they're going to measure 7 minutes of pure love for each other. Let's do that together. Close eyes, please, just the hands on each other. And we do this. We never do these things. And I think now is important. It's important that we do all that we create this incredible energy in the space that can spread everywhere, where we are and we are not. And thank you for being here.
So my suggestion, just put a hand on the shoulder right now of somebody else. And just close your eyes and just relax, really relax. I know this is so, you're self-conscious and you're bankers and it's complicated. But come on, just have a very simple human experience, and we're going to be in silence. Let's do it 1 minute, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was so emotional. Of course, this is edited, so it's really less, but normally in that square was 7 minutes. And it was so incredibly emotional. It was in Greece with a really economical crisis, a refugee crisis, at the moment that was so important, that kind of connection. Okay.
And there is, of course, an ongoing continuation once you went through this gate, after the MoMA show, to work with these very public experiments, which just didn't stop. And that leads us right away to Stockholm, where Daniel Birnbaum invited you again to do initially a retrospective. And of course, whenever you're invited to do a retrospective, it doesn't become a retrospective, it becomes part of a new experiment. Can you tell us about what happened in Stockholm?
So here it was, my exhibition, but also we was thinking how we can create community event there. And Swedish are not easy humans. I mean, they're Nordic, they drink a lot, they don't talk much, they don't express emotions. They have a summer depression, they have early autumn depression, late winter depression. It's dark. It was the most strange thing. I talked to the psychoanalyst who was writing a book, and he said to me, he was really analyzing this old depression issue of Swedish in the one very north island, close to Lapland, very north. And they say that, this is like only 3 months daylight, and mostly it's dark. And this is the highest rate of suicide ever. And he was, writing a book about this. And he said to me the most interesting thing that, when these people suicide, they're not suicide in the darker period. They're suicide when the first sunlight come up. And I was like shocked, but to say why? Because they say they're so depressed that actually don't have energy to suicide in the darkness. This is like, wow. So, it's very difficult to find something community who can be cheerful and could really work in Sweden. So it took me a long time to find out that actually there is one phenomenon about Swedish. They all sing. They're parts of kind of choruses. They even learn Slavic music to sing in the Slavic dialect. I could not believe. And, they have all kinds of different orchestras, religious, not religious, the ABBA and everything else. And so they all sing. So that the show is called Cleaner for me. It was a very important title because when you make retrospective, I think it's about cleaning the memory and it's about liberation of that memory. So I also love cleaning myself. I always am interested in cleaning. Not necessarily cleaning the house, but cleaning your own body, which actually is the main thing to clean. So the Cleaner was the title. So we made this Cleaner situation. So here we actually have these orchestras who've been singing all the time, 120 of orchestras. They will voluntarily come and go for a duration 1 week, 8 hours a day. They will sing, like 1 hour, and then one orchestra will leave singing, another singing will come in. And the public was just now didn't have headphones anymore. They would just be there in that kind of space and connected with this kind of energy. It was kind of incredible. The people just was mesmerized. Nobody was leaving. And they have very strong the spiritual experience. And we didn't make any kind of choice of the type of music. Homeless people were singing Christmas songs, or rock people were singing rock music. There was somebody from Nashville passing by that came and sang the Nashville song. There was no restriction. And the space, we didn't have any more platforms. We made even more minimal. We just marked the floors with the tape. So and to create the group situation.
How many hours was it?
This was 8 hours a day, 7 days. And then, we have facilitators who was very gently moving people in the space. They was lying down, standing, sitting, and nobody was leaving. And the new people would come, and it was very, very strong, very intense connection with the Swedish audience that I didn't know how to find the key, but through the music I did. And which was very interesting, I'll show you some single images, which was very interesting, it was all generation, like young, old, very, very, very different professionals, people from art, people who absolutely nothing to do with art. And this is what for me is so interesting, how to reach communities. So normally when I do the show, I do the talk, they come in the people who normally will not come to the museum, who will not come always to the art galleries. And this is what, to me, the key, especially very large young audience. So there's something that actually people connect to. So that's the images of people. It was like it was in the church, and it was like a church, the whole thing.
And that's again like at the Sapota, it really built a community of so many people. And I think one of the things all these experiences have in common is, of course, that they're all, Fernand Braudel, the French historian, talked about la longue durée. They're all long durational. And I find it very fascinating that the beginning of your interest in the long duration actually started with your encounters with the Australian Aborigines, and it actually started at a lake called Disappointment. Can you tell us?
You know, it was west of a Lake of Disappointment, to make it exactly. Lake of Disappointment is the area in Brazil, because never water comes, you know, so easy. Not Brazil, sorry, in Central Australia desert. Water comes every 7 years. And I very much remember that I got the little guide to when I was going to Australia, how to survive, and they say, okay, the Aborigine doesn't show you the water, because they always know where is the water, and you're alone, and you're going to die, because you're very thirsty. You have to look for the bank of the lake or the river. And then you can see, because impression of the earth is a little different. And you have to dig maybe 50 centimeters or less than half a meter on the ground. And then you can find these frogs. And these frogs are actually hibernated, and they can stay without water for 7 years. But they have enough water in themselves. So I always like this, it was crazy, you know, the kind of instruction. Just take 4 or 5 of these frogs, squeeze them, and you just have enough water to survive and throw the frog. And I never actually throw the frog. I never need to.
But I love it that you relocated the Lake Disappointment to Brazil, because we got to travel now to Brazil. That's the next.
So, no, yes, but this is just some numbers of people. Okay, so this is the, you know, I want to just show you some lines of people waiting. In, you know, this was in Sweden. We are talking. This is February. It's super cold outside, like minus, you know, 5, 6, 7, 10, and they're just waiting in the lines. This was a Kiev just recently, which people waiting. This was Brazil. This is the Sydney. So that amount of audience who absolutely don't mind to wait hours and hours to have experience of the method, to see things.
My relation to
Okay,
Brazil.
so okay. Now, sorry, wait, I stopped. I've done something wrong. Anyway, so we come to Brazil. So I want to show you 7 minutes of something to actually give, you know, a statement why for me the audience become the work. Okay. So now how I do this? Can we start? I done something wrong. Backwards, forwards. Can we just come to the 7 minutes?
You can have your feeling.
Oh no, I think I'm doing well. Wait. No. I knew that I would do something wrong with technology, which is not my. So can we have new sound here? Yeah.
I went to the mines just looking for ideas. I actually want minerals to tell me what to do. When I asked miners if I could just sit on the chair deep in the mines or lie in the bed and let me alone there for a long period of time until I wait for an idea, they think I was completely crazy. When I told them that I got an idea to make shoes out of amethyst, huge minerals weighing 70 kilo, they could not believe. How can I walk in these shoes? They asked. I was telling them, but these shoes are not for walking. These shoes are for mental departure. I don't think we need art in nature. Nature is so perfect already without us. We need art in the cities. We need art in the cities which human beings don't have any time. In the cities they are polluted. In the cities they have too much noise. We have to take experience from nature and transmit it into the cities. I always believe that the function of art is a function of bridge. To bridge different people from different social backgrounds. Different religious beliefs. Different races. But it's also about communication between physical world and the spiritual world. Or just simply between two human beings. I think this trip was very important to me. Not just to get new ideas, but also to open my mind into something different. After I come back, somehow the puzzle came together in a very clear and bright image. I understood that I have to give tools to the public to experience their own self. I have to just blend in. I have to be like a conductor. Because I'm always performing in the front of the public. I'm engaging with the public. The public is my mirror. And I'm the mirror of the public too. Everybody have trauma. Everybody have loneliness. Everybody have fear of death. Everybody have pain. I'm giving part of myself, and they give me part of themselves. The only way they can understand in much profound level what performance is they make their own personal journey. I am removing myself completely from the public. Public is the work. In the front of me is a cave. And I'm going to explore.
So for me, this sentence is extremely important, that the public is the work and that in front of me is the cave and I'm going to explore. And this is the whole idea of an artist as the explorer, that we should never repeat ourselves, that we should always surprise ourselves with the new ideas and always to see what is in the cave and what is the other side of the cave. So this is where I am now.
And that's beautiful because that goes full circle, back to Alexander Dorner, his idea of the Kraftwerk, which always surprises us. It also leads us to Diaghilev and Cocteau, who said "étonnez-moi," surprised me. But also what you said about public space tonight made me think a lot about our friend Vito Acconci, whom I would like to remember here. Because Vito always says, there is no such thing as a given public, but it is always about making it public. It's to make public. And there is another friend of ours we lost this year. That's the great Gustav Metzger, with whom you, Marina, did amazing things here at the Serpentine. He died in his early 90s. And Gustav always said, we need to talk about or address the topic of extinction. Because he said, if you talk about climate change, nobody will ever wake up. But if you talk about extinction, maybe something will change. And that leads us right away to another kind of gateway I wanted to talk about as a last kind of chapter of tonight's conversation, which is a brand new exploration in your work, which is your work with VR and AR, virtual reality and augmented reality. And let's start with VR, and then we go into AR. You've done a piece actually with VR called Rising with Acute, and it's a piece very much which has to do with the ecological crisis Gustav described. Can you tell us a little bit about this piece and how you started to work with VR and how through that you can, in a way, create yet even more communities?
No, first of all, my relation to technology is love and hate. It's such a mixed feelings, because I always believed technology was invented that human being have a more time, but it's completely taken the time from us because we are addictive nature, and every new gadget become, the part of our exploration. So we never have time. And to me, it's so frustrating to see that when you're making emails and you work all day long and you get in the evening double emails back, and it's never conclusive. Always every new email will be sentenced, and by the way, what you do next day, or by the way, so it's never ending. That never ending is so frustrating. But this is one thing about technology. But in the same time, nothing is wrong with technology. It's our approach to technology is wrong. And when I saw the first time VR, which was fascinating for me, that actually the way how, when you put these glasses, that actually somehow you disappear, your body disappear, and what you really see, the brain thing, is reality. But to me, what was interesting about VR also, it's that I all my life work with the limits of my body, and I really pushing them mentally and physically, in the last 50 years. But then there is, of course, a moment that you can't push farther. But if you create your own avatar, there is no limit, because avatar can do things that you never can do. I always want to levitate, but I don't. I wanted to lie on the ice forever. I wanted to do things that as a child, the imagination that I could not do. But your own this different self can do. So when I was approached to Acute Art to create the first project, I was really careful to see what I can do. And it's really just the beginning of everything. So first of all, I was always looking what young kids are doing with VR. They're playing video games. And these video games are mostly based on violence. And they're mostly based on something that you're chasing somebody or winning something or killing somebody. And only one video game that I ever saw 20 years ago in North Japan in some small little place. It was this video game that probably was the only one I ever played. It was you are the fireman, and the orphanage is burning, and you are going to save the children from orphanage. And I remember playing fanatically this girl, that I had 10 children, 20 children in my hands, and I was saving them, and I want to save all of them, and the feeling of complete accomplishment, and feeling that really good that I'm doing something actually good, for the kids, or for humankind. So I was thinking, okay, shall I take the video game as my first VR project? Because, to take something where the children play, but then give them another context and give them another kind of, consciousness. So to me, the global warming is not a joke. I think that our civilization probably next 100 years will not exist, because the water is melting, and we are, 70% of the planet is the water. And we take this lightly. So the my avatar, so you put the VR in your head, is still not developed completely. We are, experimenting.
But you become responsible because there is an app also.
Yes,
right?
but this is like a video game. So you put the how you call the glasses on. So you find yourself as a visitor in kind of space where you see the container, like a kind of Houdini container for the water, and I'm inside this water till my chest. And I put my hand in my glass inside the container, and you ask to put your hand against mine. Give me your hand. The moment you touch my hand, your entire thing is disappear, and you transform yourself in Greenland with this melting this huge amount of ice, and the big water is coming, and you're on the little piece of ice that you're going to drown any second. And it's 363 experience, and we work with George Lucas, and it's really frightening. You completely lose balance, you lose the feeling. And then this kind of big wave come to your face, and you just kind of, lose the contact. And then you get up, and he's up saying, okay, if you wanted to, by the way, then you can actually play the game, that you can give you make the contract with the planet Earth. You planet Earth, this is our planet, that you will do this and these things in order to save the Earth, like, from plastic bags to, eating the food that you don't throw the food, that just simple things that you can, commit yourself. And the moment you say that, the red light comes and the water in the container go down. But if you don't make any commitment, water is going up and I'm going to drown in the front of your eyes. So this is a kind of choice you have to make. Or you save the earth and you save human being, or you kill human being and kill the earth. So I want the children to play this video game. I want to give them this possibility. So that's the kind of setup that we are developing. It is called Rising. And Rising is this kind of double meaning, rising the water, but also rising the consciousness.
Now this is VR, and you told me that you're very interested in this idea of how to transfer energy from body to body, through the use of modern technology. And of course also some of your unrealized projects can actually happen, through technology, as you mentioned. We can go beyond gravitation, etc. But of course with VR, there are also very kind of strong limits, because in a way there is a separation. We either experience the exhibition or we have the goggles, and then we're in the VR world. And that, of course,
and also is not you. Is what you see. Exactly. Is the information of you creating this alter you, which is actually avatar, which is never you or own energy.
It's that's going to change maybe with AR, because of course. With
you have to explain very simple augmented reality.
Yeah, so with augmented reality we have mixed reality. We no longer disappear behind the goggles, and maybe very soon we'll only have tiny little boxes attached to our glasses, and can then experience both the reality we see as well as an augmented reality. And that mixed reality is of course something which interests you, and we are very, very delighted that Todd Eckert is here tonight, because you're working with him and Tindram on a new experiment, and that's still in earlier stages. But I was thinking it would be nice tonight, in a way, that for the very first time, that you could speak in public a little bit about it.
I'm like you. I'm really, old school. I still believe in Xerox, fax, and telegram, but that's another thing. So we talk about augmented reality. So as I understood, in a very simple way, augmented reality, you have these glasses, but in these glasses you have two visions. You have the vision of the space you are, and as life is this, and then you have this augmented reality when you actually see, If let's say if we scan ourselves, which we wanted to do, it's scanned in the space that is not any kind of avatar. It's actually filmed with the 360-degree cameras, that you can be 360-degree, existing. You can go around you. You can touch. You can be touched and see that energy of the person is preserved in its entirety. So it's really me. I'm not presenting something else. So this is something that we're trying to experimenting and actually making in November. So I can't say much more, except Eckhart make his own company, Tindram, and he is going to introduce us to this new adventure. And you will be the first curator and will be first artist immortalized in this kind of argumented reality. So this is what is interesting me. Interests me really to always push new horizons, to see what is up there, because we have to listen to spirit of time. And to me, there's nothing more, there's nothing more sad to see performance artists of 70s doing the same shit of 70s. I don't want to be one of them.
That could not be a better conclusion. Thank you so, so much, Marina. We can now take some questions.
We know that you have dinner and everybody's hungry. Let's limit it 3 questions. That's kind of a good number. 3 is like triangle, pyramid, energy.
Yeah,
3
jamais deux
questions.
sans trois. 3 questions.
3 questions.
That's good.
Yeah.
Do we have urgent questions? For
I don't see anything, so somebody have to.
Yeah,
give
if
the
you
mic.
can have a microphone. There's a question here in the middle.
And just before the question starts, I just want to say, talking about the public, we talk more. You know, the different artists have different relations with the public. Sometimes the artists perform and don't care about the public. It's just kind of inside himself. And Martha Graham said, the great dancer of our time, she said, wherever dancer stand is the holy ground. And I like to say this, my vision of the public, including you here, wherever public is the holy ground for me.
Marina, thank you very much for your talk this evening. You've been great company. I'm just over here, sorry. I know we're all in the dark in the audience here. The theme of the talk this evening was community and collective action. And for me, the idea of community tends to have this idea of a shared belief system, the feeling that people are going to work together towards a common outcome. And when I see your work, I see people having very intense experiences, but they seem to be very introspective. They seem quite often to do with their personal recollection, their personal experience. And I'd love you to connect this personal experience and this introspection that I see in the documentation of your work to this idea of a wider community and a wider sense of collectivism.
You know, for me, which I understood since long time doing my work and I'm doing, that actually there is a need right now. Maybe 20 years ago it was different, but right now is a need that to give the tools to community to experience the presence, to experience themselves, and also not just to look at something, but to be absolutely part of something. That's essential. This is why it's such a need of participation.
2 more questions. We've got a question here in the front row.
We need a microphone.
We need a microphone in the front row, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you for your talk. I was wondering, I saw a big difference between what happened with the chairs and where you were looking at one person in the community, in the public, and there were other people looking at this experience. And then, for example, what happened in Sweden, where everyone was experiencing something together. What do you feel is the difference of having someone watch you experiencing something and then not having a looker, just everyone experiencing it together?
You know, this was 2 different stages of this concept. In the Artist is Present, I set up this situation. And I then, very soon, we realized that waiting is a part of the process, because people, I have the people who wait for like all day, and they will come to be in their line, and they will just not do it, and they will give to somebody else to do it, because observing was more important and become part of the waiting as a part of the concept. But I really prefer that everybody experience. But that time that I didn't know, this was my beginning of the idea that actually I understood the value of community. So when I stood up from the chair in MoMA, I understood I want to create my institute, I will create the method that everybody is part of this experience.
Now we can take a last question. We've got a question here in the second last row on the left.
It's funny how when you see someone do something and you have their life and a lot of their work explained in this kind of way, you kind of can't imagine them ever having done anything else, that they were born to do something, they were born to do this role. that we were all born to be here and listen to this. Can I ask very randomly, if you had not been able to do this as an outlet for your creativity, what would you have done?
Oh, this is a great question. Something out of the box. You know, first of all, I'm incredibly sad that I could not sing. This was I can't sing, I don't have voice or whatever. Because, you know, I'm so obsessed with immateriality. And for me, the music is the absolutely highest you know, the form of art, because it's so immaterial. With the sound, with the music, there is no distance. You can reach everybody, and there's no object between you and the receiver. So this was something. And if I didn't do that, and was not an artist, I think I have a very, very good feeling for real estate. It's true. Honestly, it is so funny, but it's honestly, I never, you have to read my biography, Walking Through the Walls. Now they just came paperback, the version in because there is an entire chapter how real estate, buying house in Amsterdam changed my life. It was a really unbelievable story. Nobody even believed it because it's so unusual and so orthodox. This is like 20 minutes to tell you. It's too long because we're going to eat. But honestly, I have this feeling. I see potential. It's every time it's happening. So, but you know, I'm stuck with being an artist.
But it's fascinating you would ask this question, because some years ago, actually, many years ago, when we did a conversation, I ended it with asking you the famous pivot questionnaire, and it involves lots of questions with, like, the moment we all waited for. You said the one I'm still waiting for. And then I asked you the question from the questionnaire, what profession other than yours would you like to have? And you said no other profession, just this one. And then the questionnaire goes, what profession other than yours would you not like to have? And you said immediately politician. And then
still the truth.
And then it went, if heaven exists, that's the famous question in the questionnaire. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gate? It's the question which Al Pacino answered with rehearsal at 3. And you said, I would like to ask God to come back again, but to be sequoia and not move at all, just a tree. Now, I have a last question, Marina, which is always the only recurrent question in all my interviews, which is, as you know, I've asked you many times before.
I'm very worried about that.
Unrealized project. Because as you know, we know so much about architects' unrealized projects because they publish them, but we almost know nothing about artists' unrealized projects. And of course, you know, there are many possibilities for projects to be unrealized. Projects can be too big to be realized or too small to be realized, too expensive. You already told us one, the Institute, which is still, you know, possibly realized, and but too expensive so far.
No, just in terms of immaterial.
But I was actually thinking about that, you know, because a couple of years ago we were in a conference with Rem Koolhaas, and he said his unrealized project was to build an art school. And somebody in the public just said, let's do it. And Strelka was built. Maybe somebody tonight here will just help you to build it.
But what about if I don't build the Institute, but just sell as real estate right now? You know, Hudson is progressing, is the biggest building in Hudson, is 24,000 square feet. You know, it's built in 1936, it's all concrete. You know. Listen, any bidding?
That's great. And actually, we had Doris Lessing here at the Serpentine, the amazing Nobel Prize of Literature. And when I asked her about the unrealized projects, she said, oh, actually, the most important unrealized projects are the ones, you know, one hasn't dared to do. There is a form of self-censorship. Is there a project you haven't dared to do? Or is there a dream? Or is there a...
You know, it's getting too long because I don't want to tell you everything. But I remember I was, you know, when I was doing the space in between this film that you see, 7 Minutes from Brazil, which I went to see the people with special energies, healers, shamans, and so on. I went to visit a woman who was 120 years old. And I asked her, and she was so small, energetic, incredible. And I asked her, what's the most important thing in life? And she said, the most important thing in life, how to get in and how to get out. I think that we end here.
That's so beautiful, Marina. Thank you so much. Many thanks. I just wanted to say many thanks also to UBS, many thanks to Beyeler Foundation, and another very big round of applause for the great Marina Abramović.